So you guys all love the body butter recipes. You love the mint chocolate body butter recipe I posted a couple weeks ago. So today we're doing a orange cinnamon conditioning body butter. This stuff has such a gorgeous consistency. It's a much softer butter than the mint chocolate body butter I made a couple weeks ago. This is due to the Kokum butter, which is much softer than cocoa butter like I used in the last one. And this has a gorgeous conditioning effect to the skin due to the btms 50, which is a cationic surfactant. And that's really the key ingredient here that's going to be contributing to that conditioning effect and that soft velvety feel that this body butter has. I think you guys are gonna love this. So let's just jump right into the recipe. So I'm making a 100-gram batch. And the first thing you're going to need is some kokum butter. So last time I made this recipe, I actually used shea butter, but a lot of you guys have been requesting me to make a body butter with kokum butter. So I decided to use kokum butter instead today. And kokum butter is a bit harder than shea butter, not too much. And it's actually like much softer than cocoa butter. I have issues like, you know, crushing cocoa butter with my fingers, but the kokum butter is pretty soft and manageable. If you don't have kokum butter, you can easily use shea butter instead, or mango butter, since those are pretty soft, just like kokum butter. You can also use cocoa butter, but cocoa butter, like I said, is harder, so you'll end up with probably a harder body butter. And given whatever butter you decide to use will change the consistency of your final body butter, but either way, you'll still get a body butter in the end. So I'm just gonna be using kokum butter. So the next ingredient I'm gonna be using is btms 50. btms 50 is a cationic surfactant, meaning it has a conditioning effect. Typically, cationic surfactants are what is found in conditioners. That's what detangles your hair and softens it. And cationic surfactants are really great at conditioning the skin as well. It creates this like really soft velvety feel on the skin. So this is the key ingredient that's actually going to be making this body butter a conditioning body butter. You can substitute this out probably for btms 25, although it's not as conditioning as btms 50, but you'll still get a bit of that conditioning effect, just like you will with the btms 50, but the btms 50 does contain more cationic ingredients than btms 25. Now you can totally substitute this out for emulsifying wax NF, cetyl alcohol, cetyl alcohol, Retamulse SCG, any kind of waxy emulsifier, or any kind of sort of like hardener like cetyl alcohol or stearic acid. You just won't be getting that conditioning effect, so it wouldn't technically be a conditioning body butter anymore, but you'll still get a pretty nice body butter using any of those. So those are some substitutions for you guys. So I'm gonna be adding the 10 grams of the btms 50 into the beaker with the kokum butter. And you wanna make sure you're using a heat-safe container because we're going to be heating this up and melting everything down. So the next ingredient is an ingredient called IPM, and this is commonly used in body butters or any other anhydrous products to help reduce the greasiness, because body butters contain all anhydrous ingredients, so it's a pretty greasy and oily product. So using IPM can actually help reduce that greasiness and oiliness, and this is also an emollient, so it does help hydrate the skin as well. So we're gonna add in 5 grams of the IPM. Now next up, we have some caprylic capric triglyceride. So this is also an emollient ester. So it's really similar to plant oils, as in it helps moisturize the skin, but it's a lot less greasy than plant oils. So you're basically getting that moisturizing effect that plant oils have, but not making it as heavy and greasy, which is why emollient esters are really good to add into body butters, because it really helps eliminate that greasiness while still getting that moisturizing effect. So I'm adding in 21 grams of the caprylic capric triglyceride. And you can easily use any other emollient ester like cocoa caprylate, squalane, or you can just use a plant oil, but I highly recommend a plant oil that's not as greasy and heavy, or one that like your skin seems to really like. So jojoba oil and like meadow foam seed oil would be some good choices. Now next up is some macadamia nut oil. I personally really like macadamia nut oil. It's a really soothing oil, but you can substitute this out for any other plant oil you would like. Grapeseed oil, jojoba oil, almond oil, apricot kernel oil, anything works. But as I keep saying, you really want to reach for oils that are less greasy, ones that absorb pretty quickly, or ones that your skin just seems to like, since this is a really oily product. So keep that in mind when you're making body butters. Like, how can you make this less greasy? That's always what I like to keep in mind. And I'm adding in 17 grams of it. Now lastly, for the heated phase, we have some sea buckthorn berry oil. So this oil has such a gorgeous, gorgeous color. And since this is a orange cinnamon body butter, I figured it'd be fun to use an oil to obtain that orange color. So I decided to use this at 5%, so that would be 5 grams in our recipe. So you can substitute this out by using more of the caprylic capric triglyceride or whatever emollient ester you use, or just use plant oils instead of using this. You don't have to use the sea buckthorn berry oil if you don't have it. You can just use some orange mica powder instead to color the body butter, but figured this would be a fun way to color the body butter instead. And I'm adding in 5 grams of it. Alrighty, so now it's time to move this over to our water bath to melt everything down. So in order to create a water bath, you want to take a pan and fill it with about an inch or so of water. Place it over top of your stovetop, which I just have this like portable stovetop here. I'll link this down below if you're interested in it, but your kitchen stovetop works perfectly fine. And then you just want to take your beaker and place it right into the water. And you'll know how much water to add into the pan depending on how big your beaker is, because you obviously don't want so much water in it that the water will spill into your beaker, but you want enough to at least cover up a third of the beaker, if that makes any sense. All right, so let's let this melt down. So now that we have our body butter completely melted down, what I normally do is just place it in the refrigerator and let it cool down. But since this is a video, I'll show you what I'm gonna do. And this method does work really well, but it just creates more dishes. So I create sort of like an ice bath. I put ice and then a little bit of water in a bowl. And then I take a smaller bowl, put it in here. Doesn't need to be perfect, just put it over top. And then you can pour this into this bowl. And what this does is that it will actually help cool down the body butter, since we're putting it into a cooler container and then putting it over ice. So now instead of waiting for all of this glass to cool down and then the body butter, it'll already be in a cooled down bowl, and then it'll help cool the body butter down even more, if that makes any sense. You can already see like the edges of the body butter cooling down. So next what I'm gonna do is take some arrowroot powder. I have 10 grams here, and add it straight into the body butter. And what this does is it'll actually help reduce the greasiness of the body butter, because like I keep saying, body butters are very oily and greasy, so the arrowroot powder will help reduce that. And you can totally add the arrowroot powder at the end once the body butter has solidified, but I always like to add it in while it's still melted down. So I'm gonna start whipping it with the hand mixer. So I'm gonna let this sit in the ice bath for a bit to solidify just a bit more. So now that this has cooled, you wanna wait till it's under at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius. You can add in the rest of the cool down ingredients. So I have 0.5 grams of vitamin E oil, 1 gram of orange essential oil, and then 0.5 grams of this cinnamon roll fragrance oil I have that smells really, really good. I'll link it down below along with everything else I use in this video. But you can use cinnamon essential oil if you would like instead. I'll link that down below as well. But the cinnamon orange just smells so good together, and the vitamin E is used to help extend the shelf life of the butters and oils. It doesn't preserve them, but it keeps them from going rancid, so it'll keep your butter fresher longer. Of course, if you plan on selling body butters, it might be a good idea to add in a preservative. Optifin is a good preservative. Don't use Optifin Plus, because Optifin Plus is water soluble. You want to use an oil soluble preservative like Optifin. So I'll link that down below as well. And the reason I recommend preserving your body butter if you're selling it is because your customer might dip their wet hands into the body butter like after a shower, and that could cause your body butter to grow mold. But of course, if you're using it yourself, you know not to expose water to the product. So you don't necessarily need a preservative if you're using it yourself, because there's no water in the product at all. But if you're selling it, gifting it to somebody, it might be a good idea to add a preservative just in case. But we won't be using a preservative today, but if you want, you can add in 1% of Optifin and then take away 1% of one of the carrier oils. So I'm gonna go ahead and add these in, and we can go ahead and give everything a good mix again. So now I think it's time to take this off the ice bath since it's definitely thickening up quite a bit. You can see as you got that little swirly swirl going on. So just dry off the base of your bowl. And honestly, I kind of do recommend doing this method if it's like your first time making body butter, because if you put this into the fridge, you might end up forgetting about it and it might get too hard. Because if it gets too hard, it might be hard to whip it depending on, you know, the hardness of your final body butter. It really just depends. Using an ice bath, you kind of get to watch it as it cools down and watch the viscosity sort of, you know, become thicker. So I'm using this 4-ounce jar here. I'll link down below to where I purchased my jar, but any jar works fine. So as of right now, the body butter is still pretty thin. Like it's not super thick, but by tomorrow it'll probably harden up quite a bit, but obviously it's still usable now. And oh my gosh, that literally just, that absorbed in my skin so quickly, and it leaves this really soft, just velvety feel on the skin. That's the best way I can describe it. And it just doesn't feel greasy, oily. Oh, it feels so good. Like, definitely this and the mint chocolate body butter I shared a couple weeks ago are definitely my favorite body butters I think I've ever made. Although I haven't made too many body butters, but a lot of you guys have been requesting more body butter recipes, so I've definitely been experimenting a lot more with body butters. And I definitely get the hype. They are really cool, and they feel amazing if they're actually made right. Just most body butters are pretty greasy and made with, you know, pretty heavy, oily ingredients, but when you make them right, they're absolutely amazing and perfect for the winter time when you're really dealing with that cracked, dry skin. So I'm gonna let this sit until tomorrow, and we'll check back tomorrow on the final hardness, because this will definitely harden up, because as of right now, it's still pretty soft, but I can already tell it's hardened up since I've just poured it in this jar like 2 minutes ago. So it's the next day now, and here's what the body butter looks like, and this is the consistency. So it's actually much softer than the last body butter I made, the mint chocolate body butter. I'll link that video down below if you guys want to watch it. This is definitely a much softer consistency due to the fact that we used Kokum Butter, which is much softer than cocoa butter. This has such a lovely consistency to it. I think I definitely prefer this nice soft consistency that this body butter has over the mint chocolate body butter's consistency. So you can definitely always, you know, change the hardness of body butters depending on the ingredients you use in them and the percentages you use them at. So if you follow this exact recipe, you'll get a really nice soft body butter like this. But of course, it really can depend on your climate. Like if you're in a really warm area, it'll be even softer than this. If you're in a colder area, it could possibly be harder than this. It's pretty cold where I'm at. It's probably was 60 degrees or cooler in this room all night. And I just came in here this morning, and this is the consistency. So just keep that in mind. Depending on how warm or hot your environment is, can change the consistency of body butters. And as you can see, it really just massages into the skin very easily, and it leaves this really soft, velvety just feeling on the skin. I absolutely love it. So I highly recommend adding in btms 50 into your body butters. You'll really get that lovely just velvety feel on your skin. Absolutely love it. So 10 out of 10. Totally recommend. Love it. And then I wanted to make a little label to add on. I'll link down below to my video that explains to you guys how I make my labels. And there we go. It's the finished orange cinnamon body butter. Literally obsessed. I know you guys love body butters, so you guys are really gonna love this one. Trust me, give it a try. I think you guys are gonna love it. And of course, if you want like an actual orange color, you can use the mica powder instead of the sea buckthorn berry oil. That's totally fine too. And you'll get more of like an orange color. So I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave me a comment down below. Give this video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you guys can be notified for any future uploads. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Later. Stardust Bath & Body, Nature's Farm Girl, Kennedy's Essentials, Let's Blend, Wildflower, Heartfelt Beauty, KAJ Bath & Body, Blue Mint Soaps, Sol Air Label, Lenny's Beauty, Shark City Naturals, Ohanale, Danny Botanicals, Pimpy Girl, Brie Maquillage, Alchemy and Clay, Bible Belt Boutique, London Latris, Naturally Flawless, Facial Daily Rituals, Your Spiritual Midwife 333, Paige Murray Hair Care, and Holistic Products by Black Soul. Also, I sell skincare products myself over on Etsy. I'll link my Etsy shop down below, along with all my patrons.